So there's a few options for shoelace pose. So let's show you them. The first option is sitting with both sitting bones down either on the mat or on a prop, maybe a rolled up blanket, and bringing your knees as close together as your knees go. So this might be not close together at all, and there might be a gap, a space between your top leg and your bottom leg. And this is again where you would use a prop so that your knee isn't just sort of hanging out in space, that it's supported. If crossing your leg over the top is just a no-go, some variation of cross-legged, so whether that be one leg in front of the other or sort of traditional crossed legs, that might work for you with your right leg in front. Third and final option is to lie down on your back and cross your legs so that your knees are as close together as they go, just like in the first option of seated, but this can help give a bit more space for your knees if knees are an issue, and also if your hips are quite tight. So you can experiment with those different shapes, and taking a version that there's a certain level of sensation, so a mild to medium sensation, but nothing that you would term as painful. We're going to be here for about 4 minutes. So it's a shape that might not initially be, it might be not your go-to comfortable shape that you would take, but you want to find as comfortable a shape as possible. And then if you're in the seated version, again, the option is to stay upright or fold yourself forwards. Your arms could be in front, to the side, or to the back. And again, your choice to either let your head hang heavy, or maybe it's supported with a prop. There's lots of options, and they're here for you to explore and find the just right position for you. The reason to do this shape is to feel sensation in your outer hips. You might also feel sensation in your inner legs. So notice what you feel and where you feel it. Can you be still in the body so that you can be still in your mind, using your breath as a link between them two. 3 more breaths to be where you're at. And take your time to unfold. And if you're in the seated version, if you're in the lying down version, uncross your legs and straighten your legs out. And give your legs a little bit of a shake, a little movement side to side. And before we do the other side, we'll continue with a hip opening shape on that same side. We'll come to your hands and your knees. I like to pad underneath my knees with a blanket. I'm going to bring your right foot forwards. So here your block could be handy to lift up underneath your hands so that there's lots of space for your upper body. So your hands might be down on the mat or on a block. We move through what's called a cycle of dragon poses. So it's this dragon pose. So we'll be here in this shape for another 30 seconds. Maybe you can let your hips press forwards, noticing what it feels like. What does it feel like at the front of your left leg? How about in the hip crease or the outer part of your right hip? And now heel toe your right foot out to the side enough that you can bring your right hand to the inside of your right foot. So again, your hands, you might be up on a block. And then notice where sensation shifts, if sensation shifts when you come into this little variation of dragon. And pay attention to where you feel the most tension and tightness. And is there an opportunity to let those places soften? So welcome to remain in this variation. You can, if there's space, bring your elbows down to the block. Or if there's space, all the way down to the mat. So remember, trying to get into the shapes with a certain amount of ease. So if you find yourself really forcing yourself into a position, maybe back off a little bit. Take a few breaths in the sort of previous variation. And after a little bit of time, maybe there's been some shifting and some opening. And maybe you could go lower, maybe not. It's not the aim. The aim of the shape isn't to go to the lowest variation. The aim is to feel sensation in the front of your left leg, inside of your right leg, and around your right hip. For the final minute here, we'll be in any of the variations we've done so far. And the final option would be to bring your left elbow down to the block or to the floor and your right hand to your right thigh. So now you're getting a little bit of a twist. You might feel increased sensation in the front of your left leg. Make sure that your shoulder is well supported. It can be tempting to just sort of let your shoulder roll forwards. You're going to be active and engaged, pressing your whole forearm and your hands down to create space between your shoulder and your ear. And have another 3 full breaths. And then slowly come out and bring your right hand down and lift up. And take time to slide your right foot back so that you come onto hands and knees. You might feel a little bit achy or kind of a little bit stuck in the shape, so move extra slowly. And then plant your hands down, shoulder width or a little bit wider. Tuck your toes. And just lift up briefly into down dog and pedal your heels to the mat so you move your hips around. And bring your knees back down. And setting up for the other side of shoelace. So coming to seated. If that's the variation that you'd like to do on this side. So bringing your left leg on top of your right and stacking your knees as close as your knees go. Remember, you can use a prop underneath your left knee, or maybe it's some variation of cross-legged, or you could choose the variation where you lie on your back and cross your left leg over your right leg. So once you've got yourself into your shape, you can fold forwards. And the first few breaths after getting into a position, it's a nice opportunity to check in with where you feel the most tension, the most tightness. And then as you're here, notice how that sensation shifts and changes. You notice your attention has drifted away from your breath. Come back to it. And 3 more full rounds. And slowly come out of the shape. And uncross your legs. Extend them. Just move them a little bit up and down and side to side. And setting up for a dragon on the other side. Coming to your hands and your knees. And this time bring your left leg forwards. And prop underneath your hands as you like. And ease into it. So it can be very tempting to sort of rush in and go to what we feel is our maximum right away. And that often ends up with a situation where things become way too intense and we end up with sort of spending the time backing out of the shape. So you can be a little bit more conservative in your initial approach. Just approaching gently and giving time. Heel toe your left foot out to the left. So you can bring your left hand onto the inside. So your hands might be on the block or on the mat. This might give a little bit more space for your hips to come forwards. We start to feel like it's too much stress. It's opening too much. And just lift your hips up a little bit. You could stay lifted up, or you could ease back down. It'll depend on the level of sensation that you're having. Option to transition to one or both elbows down to the block or to the floor. If you feel a lot of sensation in your knee, like it's sort of almost twisting, you could turn your foot out to the side so that your toes and your knee are going in the same direction. So this often happens if your knee falls away from the midline. So making sure your toes and your knee face the same way. And your back toes might be tucked, or it might be the top of your foot on the mat. Depends on how it feels in your ankle and in your knee. Final variation option is to lean into your left hand or your left forearm and place, no, your right hand or your right forearm, and place your left hand on your left leg. So we're not looking to press the leg to the side, we're just resting your hand on your leg and a little bit of a twist. Remember to, you can have your right elbow, it's either right underneath your shoulder or maybe even a little bit forwards. That way you can actively press into it so you're not just sagging and leaning your right shoulder forwards. Another 3 breaths. Your left hand down to the floor and move as slow as you need to come into downward facing dog. And once you're in down dog, and bend one knee and then the other as you pedal your heels to the mat, moving your hips around.